Good morning and welcome to Getting Started with SmartList Builder. I'm really glad you're here. You've made a smart choice this morning, and I promise you that within an hour from now, you're going to be smarter than you were when you woke up this morning. So if you don't feel smarter in an hour's time, you can hold me responsible, but I guarantee you will. We know everyone here today loves SmartList. That's why you're here, because you love SmartList and GP. But we all know SmartList is not perfect. It doesn't have all the data you need. The lists that it provides are great, but it's not everything that you might need. And you know why? Because the people that built SmartLists don't know your business. They don't know your business processes. The person who knows your business processes is you. You're the person that knows how things flow, where the data is, and what you need to run your business and to report on your business. So therefore, it only makes sense that you have the power to build whatever SmartList functionality you need by yourself. And I say that without you having to run off to IT, without you having to call your Great Plains partner. You need the power to do it, and that's what you'll be able to do in 1 hour from now. SmartList Builder gives you literally superpowers. Now, to be clear, we are not showing you SmartList Designer today. We're showing SmartList Builder. Now, Microsoft came out with this free tool called Designer, but it is what you pay for, and it's as good as what you pay for it, which is nothing. So you're welcome to use the Designer if you choose. Today's not going to help you, and you'll be wasting your time. So I strongly suggest you get on board with what we're going to see today. Now, let me introduce the other person in the camera here, Nicole Albertson. She is simply the world's foremost expert in SmartList Builder. I'm not sure whether anyone on this call can say that about themselves on any given topic, but there is no one on planet Earth that knows more about this product than Nicole does. So you're in extremely capable hands, and you get her all to yourself for a whole hour today to learn everything that she knows, or some of what she knows about SmartList Builder. So what we're going to do today is set a challenge. We're going to have Nicole build a SmartList from scratch right in front of your eyes and take you through the entire process of I've had a request for, or I need to get a report that looks like, where do I start? Where do I find the data? What thought processes do I go through? What are the tricks to making it work? And how do we build it? Now, we're going to record this session and you'll get access to it. So you can watch Nicole build a SmartList as many times as you like. So watch it through. You don't have to take too many notes. You can come back and read it. So the scenario for Nicole today is let's pretend I'm the CEO and I walk in and say, Nicole, I need to see a list of every payables transaction we've made in the last 3 months, and I want to see where it ended up in the general ledger. I need to know all the distributions, the dates, the entries, and the journals that go with every accounts payable transaction we've put through. Now, if I was to go and look at SmartList itself, I've tried, I can't find it. Maybe Nicole can find it in SmartList herself. But that's the report I need, and I need it by the end of the day. So there's your challenge, Nicole. Build me a list of PM distributions for everything in the last 3 months. Over to you, Nicole.
Okay. Thanks for the challenge, Martin. That was Martin Olson, for anybody who didn't know him. He forgot to introduce himself. So before I just jump in, there are a couple slides in here for your resources if you're not sure what comes with SmartList Builder, what tables we can pull in. But what I want to start with is a tool called Table Finder. Because when Martin asked me for a payables report with general ledger, I don't know payables and I don't know general ledger, have never used them. General ledger is backwards to me. You know, your debits shouldn't be your credits. They don't match my checkbook. I don't understand it. So how am I going to build this for you? I'm going to use Table Finder. What that's going to do is it's a part of SmartList Builder that's going to help us find any of the tables from any windows in GP. And when I say any windows, it works with all of GP, all the add-ons that Microsoft has, and I will say most third parties. I have in the last 6 years or so since Table Finder came out, found one third party that it didn't work 100% with, but we made it work. It still shows it, it just didn't show it from their windows. We had to open it manually. So, and when we do this, we'll find it on the tools menu of any of our GP windows. So that's enough slides. Let's just get over to GP and let's start building this. So as I'm building this, I'm going to say, okay, Martin, where can we find that data? Now, I've worked that out on my own, and I figured out if I come into the journal entry inquiry window in GP, and I pick, say, a journal entry, I can drill back from here, and that's a payables transaction. So I know this is kind of, I want this journal entry information, I believe is what Martin wants, and then some of this payables information, and probably these distributions. So I think a combination of these three windows is what I need for this report. Well, what's the most detail that this report needs? He said he wants the distributions, and then maybe we need a little bit of the main stuff, you know, what's the vendor name, all of that, and then the journal entry stuff. So I'm going to start with distributions. So we'll be on this window, and I can go to Tools then and go to Table Finder from within that window. That window nicely comes up in the Table Finder tool and is telling me here's the 6 tables that are on there. So I have a great start, because if you have just the core modules of GP installed, it's like 1,500 tables. If you install a few add-ons that come with the GP install, you get up to 2,000 or 3,000 tables. You know, how do we decipher that? This just told me that that distribution zoom window uses 6 tables. Well, okay, I can go through this. I don't need the company information. You know, I'm not looking for the actual account information right now. I'm looking for those distributions. So I'm going to assume it's these. But how do I know for sure? I can pick a field off of that window. So if I need to know where that voucher number is, I can pick that field, and it tells me it's in those 2 distribution tables. And I can go through each field. What I do, print out the windows I need as a print screen, and I start going through the fields that I know I need. So I circle them all, and I start writing down where they found. And then I get this list of all the tables and the fields I need, and I can go, okay, what are the 3, maybe 4 tables I actually need? Because you aren't going to need everyone listed for every window. It's what do I actually need for the fields I want? And maybe some of them come from the same tables, and I can kind of combine that. So I know for this scenario, if I were to go through the bunch of the fields we need, that it's going to be these distribution ones are my first ones. Now we see history and work and open. We can get both onto our report, but we need to pick somewhere to start. I'm going to start with the work tables. This is Fabricam data. I'll start in work because a lot of stuff isn't in the history tables. So we'll start there. I can click Create SmartList on the bottom of this window, and it will automatically start a new SmartList Builder setup for me. So we can, what do we want to call this? We'll just call this our demo one. And we'll click Save, and you're going to see it add that table for me to SmartList Builder. Okay, so as easy as that, I have my first table added, and now before I can save this, I have to pick a couple of default fields. When it adds a table, everything's going to be available for display, so I can add it later, but I have to pick what do I want as default on that list. So I'm just going to grab a couple, maybe our voucher number, credit and debit, and let's get that vendor ID. Okay, just 4 fields. We'll start with that. I'm going to click Save. And now we'll go look at what we have so far in SmartList. Now I get this message. I can say yes, I want to put those changes I just made into SmartList. And it looks like there's a couple other ones I hadn't launched SmartList from. But it'll quickly add those lists that I have into SmartList so that I can view them there. Now, when it added that table, it automatically added it under the purchasing series because that's where that table existed. I'll show you how we can switch that though. But here is our SLB demo. And there's the 4 fields we added from that distribution table. Okay, so we've got a list. It's not what Martin wants, but we've started.
So
now,
Nicole,
yeah.
just interrupting there, that took 3 minutes, I think we gave you, and you've built that whole folder there called SmartList Builder Demo with a report with 4 columns in it in 3 minutes. That's how long it took for you to build that.
Yep, it's not long to build it. You know, I have to add more data, but to get that starting point, it's a matter of minutes.
So this new SmartList though is just like every other SmartList in the world. I can make favorites, I can export it, I can do all things.
All the functionality that SmartList has is here for me to use on that one. The end users don't know it's any different other than it wasn't there yesterday.
And you said at the beginning, I can get any data out of any table in GP into here. So there's no data I can't get. So if I type it in, I can get at it.
Yep, we can get at any table that's in GP, as well as any custom stuff you put in your GP database that's not a GP related table. Any of that type of stuff, any of the existing smart lists, all your extender data, we can get at anything that pretty much exists on the SQL Server that GP's on.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you. Carry on, because I know you've got some more things to add.
Yep, so we're gonna go back to smart lists. Right from here, I can click modify to get back, and we're gonna make this look a little bit better, add some of the information Martin wants. Now, if I go back to that table finder, I guess I closed it, we'll go back to here. I have the distribution information, but you know what? I need some of the main information, right? What's my document number, my document type, maybe the document date. Some of that's not on the distributions, that's on that header table. So that's not in this distribution window, that's back on our payables transaction window. So from here, I can go to that table finder as well and start picking that. I said I wanted the document date. And it's going to start narrowing it down for me there. So now I said we'll start with work. So we see transaction work open in history. I'm going to start with the work table. Now these subsequent tables, we can't just say create a new smart list. I need to add it in here. So I'm going to do the add table button, pick GP table, and this is where you're going to see every product I have installed can be added in here. And then I pick, some products don't have a series, GP does, and that kind of follows along with the series you pick when you're navigating GP. So we'll go to purchasing. The table finder also would have told me where that's at. So it says it's under GP purchasing, and it'll be called PM transaction work file. So we'll find a PM transaction work. Okay, now I have to choose how do I want to link this on. We have 2 options, equals and left outer. Equals says only give me data that exists in both tables. So if it doesn't exist in my distribution table, but it does exist in my transaction work, don't give it to me because it didn't exist in one of the tables. Now in this scenario, should everything that's in the transaction work exist in the distributions? Yes, but there might be scenarios where they don't. Some, you know, you have customers and they don't have addresses, but you want the list of all customers, or do you want the list of just the customers that have addresses? You know, so we have to kind of evaluate, I only want stuff that equals each other, or do I want everything in my first table, so all the distributions, and then any matching transaction information for them? If you're not sure, just pick left outer. The only thing that's going to happen is you might get more data and we need to restrict it down, versus if I choose equals and it shouldn't have been, I'll be missing data. So if you're not clear on that, choose left outer and go with that. Then I have to tell it, how do these fields link? This is probably the hardest part, is trying to decide how do they link, but you're dealing with your transactions. What is that common transaction number? Well, in payables, it's that voucher number. So I'm going to do voucher number, and then in some of the tables, they call it voucher number work, just how payables named them. And then there actually is a control type. So we'll link that as well. And what I do is kind of look at the windows, look at the tables. What are those common fields that I have to pick to uniquely identify a transaction? It's different for every module, but that's how I'm going to do it. The other thing you can do sometimes is look at the tables in Table Finder. These fields with keys sometimes are an indicator. Now this one, batch number, not something I care linking on, but you can see that voucher number work is there. So sometimes that's an indicator as well. So we're going to save this. Added that one. Now I need to get some fields, and we're just going to add that document number that we talked about. Let's get the type and the date. And let's add on our vendor master quickly, just to get our vendor's name and information like that. And of course, the one module, they don't just call it by its name. Oops, not vendor master summary. They put a PM in front of it. And then of course, this one's on the vendor ID as our common denominator. Now, this one I can do in equals if I want to. You can't have a transaction without a vendor. That I 100% know. So I could do an equals if I want to. I could choose left outer. It's not going to make a difference. Okay. Now, Martin also said he wants the GL data that goes along with that. So I could go to this journal entry inquiry window, and let me close Table Finder so it refreshes the window. And I can look at what does this pull from? Where do I get all of that information? And we could go through this one as well and find the fields we need. I'm just going to start with our year-to-date transaction open, which is our open data in GL. Now for this list, this company posts in detail to the general ledger, so that's why I'm going to the transaction open. If you post in summary, you'd want to go to a summary table, not the full open table, because you wouldn't have some of that information there. And we're going to link this onto our distribution work table based on, and I could do an equals again here if I wanted to, but that originating, or sorry, transaction source to the originating transaction source. General ledger stores, where did this transaction come from? So we're going to map those two together so that I get just the payables ones. And then of course I can have multiple accounts on a transaction. So we have a distribution account index to my account index. And I need to link it on that voucher number as well. So we're going to pick voucher number and the originating control number is what they call it in GL, and save that. Okay. Now I'm going to save that and show you what we have. And I forgot to turn on any of my financial fields. Sorry about that. So we'll get our journal entry, maybe the transaction date, account index.
And just while Nicole's doing that, a little housekeeping. If you have a question about what you're seeing and you'd like to ask Nicole a question, please enter them under the questions tab in GoToWebinar. I'm sure we won't get to every question, but we can get back to you afterwards if we don't address it. I'll try and answer them in there as well, and we can bring them to Nicole. One is, and I think we self-answered it there, and the question already, Nicole, is can we change the link between those tables afterwards? And the answer is yes. You've got full power in here to come back, choose different fields, to choose different links and change the way you link it. So if you link it, and a really good thing to do here is, you add one table, then you link a new table. You check that you're getting the data you want. If you're not getting the right data, you get to change it. Then you add the third table and then the fourth table, and each time check your links. one of the tricks is don't add all 4 tables, pick all these fields, and then run the report and you go, oh, it's not giving me what I want, and you don't know where to start. If you build it up progressively, it's by far the best way to build one of these lists.
Yep, and if I had time, we would have stopped after the transaction work, but I want to show you the full thing here. But yeah, good point. Don't add all 4 like I just did. Make sure it's working at each step. And if you get links wrong, you either get no data because nothing matched in your links, or you get too much data. Maybe you're getting double records. Well, that just says I got to find 1 more link, you know, or 2 more links or something. So keep going. You can have multiple links in here. I think it's up to 5. I've never had to have 5 between 2 tables, but that's where that is. So I'm going to save that again after I mark those fields. And one thing I did, if you didn't catch it, you can change how they display. So I changed it to be the order by the display name alphabetically. By default, it's always field position, how they come from the table, so that you can find those fields you're looking for. So now we have our data in SmartList here, and we can see that coming through. So now I have, you know, a lot of payables transactions, and remember I did a left outer, so I'm getting everything from payables and then any matching journal entries. It's not just the payables information that has a journal entry, it's all the payables distributions with journal entries if they have one. So if I reorder this in the, oh, I might not have got them in the first. There we go. So you can see some of these have a journal entry on them with that information. Some of them didn't. Okay, but what I don't have yet is the history data. Remember, we built this off of the work tables. I don't have the history data. So we can add that. And we'll modify it. And now as we think about this, so I know there's a distribution history file. I'm going to start at the top of my list and go, okay, I need to add that history. How do I add that though? The distribution work and open and the distribution history basically are the same type of data, just 2 different statuses of them. So they don't really link together. It's not like it's a subset or a, you know, subtable of the other one. So what we have is if you double click on any table, brings it back up, and you can have match tables here. And now I can match my distribution history file. So we'll pick the purchasing and PM distribution history file. And when I add that, you can see that it has matched the fields from my history file to the fields that are already on it from my work open table. And there's some that don't match. The time isn't stored in the work open table. You know, some of this doesn't get entered until it's posted. Some of it doesn't happen immediately. So if I leave it at not matched, I just won't get those fields. In this case, I don't care if I have the rate type ID. I don't need it for this report. If it did exist, and we'll see one on the year-to-date transaction open that does, I can find it in here. Sometimes they just have a different name. I can also choose blank so that when it does exist, it would show me the rate type. When it doesn't exist, it would leave it blank. If I leave it at not matched, that field is not going to be available for me to use on my list. So that's your option. Do you want it there and just blank when it's not available? Does it match something else, or do I just not care about it at all? I do have to type in what type of field is this, so I'll put work open and history, just kind of describing the tables, because we can turn a field on called table description now that would show me where that came from. So I can save this and save, and now you can see the icon kind of changed. That's telling me there's another table matched to that. And we could go through all of these and match the history here. I'll just show you this one quick because I talked about how some of them are different. So it's called account transaction history. And this one I'd actually have to match. I could match the history and the work if I wanted to. That's up to you where you want the data coming from if you don't want those work transactions. But I want to show you here, open year is what it's called in the year-to-date transaction open. in the history table, it's called history year. So I just have to match them. They're both the year. I just have to match them and then put in my information. Now, I have one that's all matched up for us. So let me pull that up instead. And you can see all three of these have their tables matched. And now on this one, it would have been called open year. And if I save that, you can see that pulls in. For sake of speed, I'm going to switch over to our SmartView product because that'll be a little bit faster for us showing you this list now with all that data on there. And actually I have it under here. You can see it's just a little bit faster for us to be able to show that data coming in for you. And then if we want to get a specific voucher, just to get one so we can see that it's coming in with all that information still. But I can turn on now that field that we got called table description. If I turn that on, I can actually go to columns and I can put that at the top if I want to. Oops, move top so that it's the first thing. So again, I just went to the columns button and reordered my columns. And when I save that now, you can see, is it coming from the work open? Or if I choose just history, here's, see, that's the problem with FabriCam data. Sometimes there isn't any.
Okay, while you're sorting that out, Nicole, a couple of quick questions for you. One is in regards to the dates. A lot of your dates were coming up as 1/1/1900. I'm guessing that's where there is no date. How do you handle those scenarios?
So yeah, so there's some history here. So that shows us that. But what happens is if GP doesn't have a date, it stores a 1/1/1900. So things like document date, you probably have something like a posting date. If you haven't posted it, you don't have that yet. So it stores it as 1/1/1900. If I go back to SmartList Builder, and let's just find a field type of date so we can see these fields. So like my document date, if I click the expansion on that, the field settings option there's a checkbox for display 1/1/1900 as blank. And when I do that, now any date that's 1/1/1900 will just be a blank instead of that fake date that's in there. That's just a SQL default date that gets stored if there is no date in your tables, and so it pulls through to our list.
And you'll note here Nicole's got other controls over how we display that date, whether you want the long date, you just want to pull out the day, the month, the year, because that helps you with your list. You get control over what's displayed.
Yep. So let's look at a couple of the other field options. If I look at just names in general, we talked about, let me go back, this being called open year. I can just rename it to year. Or when we're looking at our list, how do I know this credit amount? Does it come from the payable side or is that the GL side? I can come in any of these fields that I have marked. I thought I marked them. Oops, sorry, display status, put the ones, default status. I can call this GL debit amount. Now I know it comes from GL and it's simply typing it. But if you expand on any of these, it's going to show you different field options. It's a debit amount, so it's a currency. So we automatically turn on the currency symbol. But if you don't want that, you can turn it off. If you don't want your thousand separator, it's a percentage, anything like that we can do. The other thing you may have noticed is my account index was showing just like 1, 2, 3. Well, we know that's not a FabriCam account number. on accounts, you can come in and this checkbox here, if you check it, account index, show account number, it will then show you the account number instead of just the index. You don't have to go link on another table to get that account number because GP just stores an index in the back end. We just check a box and then it shows it. Same thing for notes. So those are nice. We try and check them by default. That's why this one was checked. But sometimes it isn't checked. So if you're getting an account index that isn't right, you can do that. And then I'd simply, you know what, let's not call it account index anymore. Let's just call it account. So you can change those field options. Okay. So let's just see if a few of those change here as we go in it. I'm just going to turn on my search so it's easier to find a journal entry. So you can see now it's showing me a nice account. It's renamed. My GL debit amount has GL in front of it. So I can come through and fix this up some to match what I want. Okay. So now I'm going to just switch to a list that has everything renamed. It's all nicely laid out, just so you don't have to kind of guess where things are. You can see I have it called GL account, GL credit amount, the payables credit and debit amount, so I know where everything's coming from. This is kind of that more finalized list, but there's still something I want on there. Everybody loves to be able to drill back to GP, right? So let's go. What do I want? I want to modify this. And we can create go-tos. Now, I'm going to remove that one just so we don't get confused. But we can create go-tos. There's a lot of built-in ones. SmartList has all of those go-tos, which are drillbacks to GP windows, has all of those built in. If there's one built in, you can certainly use it. Now I want to go to the journal entry inquiry. There's not one built in for that, so I can't do that. But you know, if you want to go to account maintenance, there's certainly one for that. If you want to click on a transaction, it either opens it in the transaction entry or the inquiry window. There's one built in for that because SmartList does that already. So those are all there. We can open any other form we want to, and that's what we're going to use, but I want to show you that we can also open another SmartList. So if I have a vendor list and I want to have that drill down to this list and just show me the distributions for that vendor, I can have my vendor list. I double click on the vendor I want, and it brings me to this distribution list and shows me just that vendor restricted in it. So we can go from SmartList to SmartList. We can open websites. Common one for that is shipping information. I can open the UPS site and see where that tracking is at if I'm storing that tracking number in GP. But let's build a journal entry one here. So I'm going to pick the window I want to go to. And again, it's 99% of the windows in GP. There are a few we can't do go-tos to because they don't have any fields. We can actually enter data they pull up from somewhere else. So if you open a window and there are no fields available for you to type into, we can't do that either. We have to open where it opens from and then have you click like the button to open that window. So I've chosen journal entry inquiry. If I leave it like that, it'll open the window. But what I wanted to do is actually put the journal number into that window so that it displays for me. So we're going to add that step. And what I want it to do, if you look at that window, you have to put the journal entry and number in there or do a lookup and then tab off of it. So when I say tab off, or if that's what you have set up, or enter if you have that set up, it's set the value and run the field script. Tabbing off runs the field script. So what field is the journal entry field? Where do I find this journal entry in your data? That's in my year-to-date transaction open, and the field is called journal entry. So I save that. Let's close some of this. Okay, and that's all I have to do. Some will have multiple fields. Maybe there's 2 or 3 you have to enter to get there. But this one just has one. I'm going to pick that as the default here so that when I double click, it automatically goes there. We'll say okay and save this. It's going to run it again for us here. And now if I double click, it automatically opened that window with that journal entry put in there. And then because I did the run field script, it pulls in the data that is based on that journal entry for me. So use those go-tos and add those in. And we can go that way back to the GP data and fix it or look at more detail, whatever you need to do there. Now I've been restricting to 497 in.
Just before you jump
Yep.
onto that, so you mean that anybody on this call can build the list, but then also build a link to any GP window that they want to open when they double click on one of these entries?
Yep. So we built it to go to
So
that one.
without a developer and a programmer, simply building a go-to and saying, this is the window I want to go to, please fill it in. You can start building your own navigation around GP. So when you have a new user and you say, pull up a record out of a custom list, and the next thing you want to do is go to said screen and print something or do something, you can build in that workflow into Great Plains.
Certainly can. And some of these, I'm doing a built-in one now. If I just choose the view, which is what happens when you double click on the default vendor smart list, I don't even have to know what fields. It tells me, hey, for that window, I need these fields. And if it finds them, it automatically maps them for me. I don't even have to do that work. Some it doesn't find because names are different. All you have to do is click on each one and say, hey, I named it this, and pick that field. So if you're using the built-in ones, it makes it even easier. You don't even have to know how to use the window. You just have to find the fields.
Very cool. All right, now I got one other question here that's coming. People are noting that you keep using this tool called Smart View, which looks just like Smart Lists, but is different. Tell us a little bit about why you're using Smart View and what it is and where it fits into the mix.
So I switched over to Smart View because the biggest complaint I have about SmartList is when I run that list, sorry, it's going to do that again, is that I watch it crawl to get to 1,000 records on this PM distributions because I've pulled in multiple tables. It's not a quick vendor list or something that can pop up pretty quick. I have a lot of data there that it's trying to decipher through. You know, if I run that list here, I can count it almost. Oh, and so for a demo specifically, not happy with that, but I'm not happy with that in my daily use. So I use SmartView, which is another E1 product. It's our version of SmartList. We like to say it's SmartList on steroids because it runs, I mean, I can return all the records. So as I did that, it returned 1,799 records, and I could have went back to SmartList and it's probably still running my 1,000, but so I get it a lot faster, as well as you're seeing me do things like searching quickly for that 497.
And the other thing there is if you've ever been frustrated by the 4 restrictions that you get in SmartList and you want to add more restrictions to a list, SmartView will let you do an unlimited number of restrictions, so you can filter down to get the exact data you want. The other advantage of SmartView, while we're on that, is that you can also access SmartView outside of GP. Somebody's asked that question here to say, do I need to have GP open? The answer is no. You can have SmartView on the laptop or on a computer for the warehouse. Now, they don't have to have GP at all, but SmartView will connect and display the data to non-GP users. So if you don't want to buy another user of GP, but you want to give people all this access, which is Nicole opening in the background, it will let you do that as well. The other question on this is the go-to Nicole built, and that go-to being available in SmartList Builder, and is that go-to available in Smart View as well?
Yes, so I was in Smart View when I used that go-to.
Yep.
So here's the double-click one that's there, and then that vendor one I was adding. I'm not close SmartList. And then the vendor one I added, that was off of the SmartList table type. They're all in SmartView. They won't be in SmartView external because you're not in GP for us to drill back on. SmartView external uses a different user than your GP user, so your SmartView external users don't have to be GP users. Here at E1, we have myself, our accountant, and Martin are GP users, but our entire sales team, our entire support team, they all can use SmartView because they use it external.
Correct, perfect. All right, let's get back. One of the things I asked you earlier was I wanted this list to be, you know, the data for a time period or specific data. I want to be able to restrict that list before it appears on my screen. I don't want to have to go in and change it and set restrictions every time. How do we go about doing that in SmartList Builder itself to make sure that I get the data or the data or the records that I want?
Okay, I'm just looking at Fabricam data to make sure I get something that actually works, since we know 2021 isn't in here. So we're going to say we want anything greater than, let's do 1/15/2024. Okay, so we kind of have a mix in 2024 of January. So we're going to do 1/15. So I'm going to modify this, and I can go into restrictions here and add a new restriction. And that was, I think the document date is in this one. Oh, PM document date. And I can do is greater than or equal to, or is greater than, whichever way you want to do it. And I'm going to enter a date, but you can also do today's date, the beginning of this week, those types of things as well. And so we'll just pick it's greater than 1/15 and change that to 2024. Save this, and now I have that. Now when I'm in GP, I can apply that restriction to everybody, or I can apply it to specific users. This scenario probably apply it to everybody. But if you have a scenario of a sales report where you want to apply each person's salesperson ID to that person's GP login, so when Martin logs in, Martin only sees the sales transactions for his salesperson, I can do that as well by using the applying restrictions to specific users. Then I create a restriction for each salesperson and apply it to that person's GP user. And we have the match all or match one or more, like you see in SmartList as well. But we'll save this. And after it updates SmartView there, now we see if I order by document date, nothing before 1/15 or 1/16, because I did greater than 1/15. So I didn't have to do a favorite and save it to get that restriction to be there. It restricted that data down, and I will never see those 2023 transactions on this list unless I go into SmartList Builder and change it.
Very cool. Something, Nicole, I know I'm not sure this was even on your list, but I have seen some questions about it, which is then working with this data in Excel. We know we've got a bunch of accountants here today. And I know you can export this from SmartList. I've also heard about Excel Report Builder. Where does Excel Report Builder fit into the story here?
So I've built this all to be in SmartList or SmartView, all within GP here. If I want this in Excel reports, yeah, I can export it, but every time it changes, I have to export it again. I want that refreshable Excel report. I can actually duplicate this one over to Excel reports, because with SmartList Builder, you get Excel Report Builder as well, which is going to create new refreshable Excel reports. It duplicates with the same name. You can change it if you need to, but we'll duplicate this over. And just like that, I have this same list now in Excel Report Builder. Now it's a little bit different in that we don't have the default column, so it marks all of the fields. I'm not gonna make you watch me go through marking which ones we want. But I would come in here and change this display because Excel doesn't have a columns button like SmartList does to go and pick the columns you want. It's do you want it in your list or not? And then I just have to click in the view name to create a view, which is how Excel is going to get the data out of SQL. It's going to create a SQL view on us here to go get that data. And I publish this. Oh, you also can't have multiple columns with the same names. So let me just, these might not be the fields we wanted, but let me just grab a couple. You know, something like vendor name. It doesn't allow us in that view to have the same thing called vendor name. So if you wanted both of them, we would have to rename one of them. So I've just picked a couple fields here, not the ones we were dealing with before, but so I'm going to publish this. Where do you want it to go? The reports library is where any default Excel refreshable reports already were. If you have those published, you can go there. I'm going to go to a file and just go to my desktop here for ease of use. And publish that. So now it has created an Excel file. As I show you my desktop, don't hold it against me. But there is our distribution thing. I'll enable the content. And there is a refreshable Excel report with that. If I had picked the same columns, that same data we were seeing in SmartList. Now, as we did that, some certain formatting things come over. You can see batch number is a little odd, but some of it might not format the same because Excel auto formats. So you might notice a little bit different things, like the dates might be a little bit different because we don't format the dates in Excel Report Builder. Excel does that for you. So you might have to do some formatting in Excel to meet your changes that you did in SmartList Builder. But when I duplicated that, that restriction came over. My go-tos do not, we call those drill downs. So I would have to recreate those here, but you can actually create a drill down that would go back to that journal entry inquiry window for me as well. From Excel back to the journal entry inquiry window. I have to be logged into GP, I have to be in the right company, and I have to have security to the window it's trying to open.
Can you do a quick test for me, Nicole? What if you accidentally deleted a few of these lines on this spreadsheet, which was something I do. I export my SmartList, format it, and then go, oh no, I can't get that data back. What do I do?
And I click save, so it's gone, right? I've closed it, all of that. I can go to data and click refresh. It went back to my GP data and just pulled the latest data. So it doesn't actually save any data to this report. It just saves the query that we use to get the data back.
Now, so when you just hit refresh, if there was a new payables transaction, it would have added it to the bottom of this list.
Yes, well, yeah, depending on how I have it sorted, where it would have added it, but yes.
Yep. And what if I wanted to then build a pivot table or make a pretty graph or send a pie chart to my CEO based upon this data?
This is Excel at this point. You can do whatever you want. So I selected that whole Fabricam Inc. sheet, click insert new pivot table, and now it's letting me pick where do I want this stuff and build out that pivot table. So that's completely up to you how you want to build this out. You can do charts, graphs,
I never have to export from SmartList again if I do it this way.
Nope, all you have to do if you want new data is click the data, and then you might have to refresh a couple of times because what happens is this list refreshes, and then we need to refresh your pivot table from this list. If we do it refresh all, it might refresh the pivot table first, which wouldn't be refreshing it, of course, because we didn't get the latest in our list that the pivot table is built off of. We do have knowledge bases on how if I just refresh this data to go and refresh that pivot table automatically. We do have some things you can do in Excel for that.
Very cool. Yeah. I got some good questions coming in here. One I like is can you do a distinct? Which is for those getting more technical in a SQL type query, but how would you go about doing that? More on your matching, I'm imagining.
No, the true definition of a SQL distinct, I cannot do. The closest I can get is in SmartList Builder, and this option isn't available in Excel Report Builder, because in Excel Report Builder, I would just kind of bundle it all together, filter it down. Would be we have a summary option. So it's not distinct, but it is like the max, min, sum, all of that, a group by type clause. So I can summarize it, and I could say, you know what, group this up by the GL account number. So if I come in here, and I haven't tried this, so I don't even know if this is going to look really ugly or what, but I would group this by the GL account number, and now everything else is getting counted if it's a string field. It's getting summed if it's an integer or currency type field. And I can change that, you know, if say the vendor name is going to be the same every time, I can change the vendor name to be showing me the max one or the min one. But just to show you what this did, like I said, it could be kind of ugly. I haven't played with it, and I broke it. So let's just come here.
Undo what you did.
It just isn't liking my restriction based on that account number. It says that doesn't make any sense. Okay, it doesn't like that summary option, but you kind of get that theory of I can create a summary list. It's not distinct by any means.
And where I do things like that is I want to look at my sales numbers by Great Plains partner. And so we run one that distinctly rolls up. I only get one line per partner, but it will sum up how much they sold this year and that sort of stuff. So that's where I use those functions. And we get a whole bunch of questions coming in, Nicole. So and I know we're running out, so I might throw some of these at you if that's all right as we run out of time. Something about security. I don't know whether you want to touch on security, particularly around Excel and publishing from Excel, being system administrator or a regular user or a power user. Do you want to comment on Excel security or Excel report security?
Sure. I'll start with SmartList Builder real quick. I'm admin. I was logged in as SA, so what I created automatically went to SmartList. It's just like any other SmartList. I just have to give my other users access to the list I create. So that's just snaps into the GP security model. Just give people access to what you're creating. Excel report builder is a little bit different because it's creating that SQL view that I talked about in my database. When I published it, I have to have either SQL admin or DB owner rights to that database. To run this query now, I first have to have, or to be a user of this Excel spreadsheet. If I were to say, here, Martin, is your spreadsheet, Martin would have to first have access to that spreadsheet. So wherever I put it out on our network or that type of sharing, I have to give him access to that location. And then I also have to give Martin's user permissions to view it in SQL. And when I say Martin's user, that's a SQL user. So his domain user, I add to my SQL server, and then I have to give him special permissions to that. And what happens when I publish that, there was a permissions button, and it's going to these different database roles, and you can change these on as you publish it, which ones you want it to be in. But Martin's user would have to be in SQL in this database in one of those roles. And then he would get access to the data in this file. So if he found the file out on our network and I hadn't given him any permissions in SQL, he'd open it and it would ask him to log in as a user that has permissions.
So just on that then, do I need to be system administrator generate an Excel report builder, just to answer that specific question?
You don't have to be system administrator. You have to be either sysadmin in SQL or DB owner is another permission that works to publish. And DB owner is at the database level instead of the whole SQL server level.
Okay, good.
And that's your GP user has to have that permission.
Now, the non-technical question here, and I'll answer for everybody, is yes, we will provide a link to this webinar. We'll have the marketing guys shoot out an email to everybody that registered, and we'll give you a link so you can come back and watch Nicole's clicking in slow motion. So for all those people asking that, we've got questions here about external users getting access to data. Now, there's two ways to do that. Obviously, to get access to SmartList, you need to log into Great Plains, so you can't be an external user. We talked about another tool for me, one called SmartView. Now, that is a separate tool with a separate price. That will let you give access to users that are on the same network or has same access to that SQL server. So you can install that without GP. You do not need a GP user or a GP install, and you can share GP data with everybody in the company. In addition to that, in early March, we're going to be having another webinar which will show you a new tool from E1, which lets you build all of the same stuff Nicole's doing here, but on non-GP data as well as GP data. So you can access data from any other system you have, and that's web-based. So it's called PopDoc, and it will display that data to you in a browser, so you can give that data to anyone regardless of where they are. So I'm working from home, I don't have a connection to GP, but I can pull all my reports and my data straight back through PopDoc. So yes, SmartView and or PopDoc will give you the answer you need. There's a question about SmartView having totals. Gets people excited at the bottom of the report. That is not something we make available. It's not available in SmartList. Microsoft never added that functionality. So it's one of my favorite things about SmartView, is how I just get the totals at the bottom, so I don't have to export to Excel and then do sums to work out the totals. It gives it to me straight up. What else have we got here?
The one thing I want to talk about is we built this list out. I don't want you to try and build this. You might have said, hey, I really want that list, Nicole. Could you just like give it to me or something after this session? It is out there on our website for everyone to use. If you go, and this is in the slides that you'll get as well, I have to think, go to e1solutions.com, same site you registered on, go to downloads, and then pick SmartList Builder. There's a template section out here where we have hundreds of templates depending on the series you want. Now, some series, human resources, my knowledge is really bad there, so some of these are pretty basic. But this purchasing one that we just built today is right here for you. We also have it if you post in summary. But if you're on 2015 or older, you need to come out here and download it and then come to GP. If you're, depending on the version of 2015, there's an option in GP now. If you go under SmartList Builder, anybody would come to this import window. Depending on what version you're on, the window might just have a browse field, and that's when you need to go download it from our website and then import it. If your window looks like mine, you can go import from web. And I already have that purchasing one, but I'll show it to you here. It's right here. So I'm just gonna go get a financial batch list or something that I know will import quick. So I can click that one for SmartList Builder, or it's for Excel or Navigation List Builder as well. I import it. And by doing that, it's gonna put it right into my system. And now in SmartList Builder, I should have a new list called financial batches. And there it is. So import that payables distribution one. It's what we built today with a few more fields renamed, the right columns. It doesn't have that go-to on it. You'll see those steps in the recording, but it is 99% of what we built today right there for you to use. So use those templates. If it's not what you want, you import this financial batches, it's not what I needed, click delete. Are you sure? Yep, delete, it's gone. No loss there. So use those templates, use them to learn from, use them to, maybe you need to modify them a little bit to work in your environment. Maybe they work great live. Use them how you need. They're out there for you.
Now those templates are the best kept secret perhaps in the world. So if you want them, it's a great starting point. You can pull those up, import them, or bring them in, and then start modifying them from there. So if you want to have a look at what Nicole's built, you can pull those up, look at the tables, look at the fields, add some fields, tick some boxes, place some restrictions, make them multi-company. There's all sorts of things you can do with those base lists. So it's a really good place to start if you don't want to start from scratch. Otherwise, I think we've hit our limit, Nicole, and I know people have got things to do, but we will make this recording available. And there's a few people writing comments here, Nicole. I just want to say that this has been amazing, and I've learned so much, and they're going to watch it 10 times today to learn how to build lists. So that's very cool. Coming up, Nicole's listed on the screen here. It's very large, but we have another session like this. It's a more advanced session. We're going to dig into some tips and tricks and some of the harder stuff around SmartList Builder coming up on February the 3rd. Nicole and I will be back for that. And you can register on that link, which is on the E1 website under events, and you'll be able to do that. Following that, we also have a boot camp coming up. Now, I think it may even be full, so I'm loath to mention it. But that's a 4-hour deeper training session. We're charging $200 each for that. If you would like to attend one of those, let us know. Perhaps just email Nicole Albertson at e1solutions.com or sales@e1 is probably the best one. And you will be able to get hold of us that way. And then in March, we have another session coming up about a month from now, which is focused on PopDoc, which I mentioned, which is SmartList Builder for the rest of the world. So it lets you build your own data lists for any data, no matter where it is. So we don't care if it's your CRM data, it's a cloud app, it might be your help desk center. And you can choose your data, build the columns, build the lists you want, merge data between GP and your credit card gateway, whatever it might be you need. So bringing in external data into the whole concept and displaying that for you on the web or really anywhere you want to display that data. So keep an eye out for that one. We haven't locked the date in yet, but it will be early in March. I would love to see as many of you join to that one as we can. Otherwise, yeah, for those that have still got questions, I will try and answer them. And some people I've said we will get back to you on because I didn't know the answer, Nicole might, on some more specific ones. So we'll get back to you on those. And thank you all for your time. Thanks to Nicole, and go and have a magnificent Wednesday. It's been fun spending an hour with you.